fix one issue on YouTube. Yeah. Okay, I
Never
fixed that.
really
So,
pay attention.
for me, it's basically we've been like this week. The goal is to get it to the point where people could play by themselves without developer interaction. So some of our Patreons have been hosting their own sessions and playing amongst themselves. Some of the people like during the playtest hours when we've had that going on, they've been doing it, and it was about basically like, hey, look, like you guys can actually jump in, play the game, leave your feedback. We started a Discord channel, and that Discord channel was built around the idea of like, hey, look, this is the format that we need you guys to leave your feedback. This is like the rubric of how to post guides or crashes, bug fixes, whatever's going on, whatever you'd like to see, that kind of stuff. And there's been a huge amount of energy around it. Where it's like I looked at the Discord earlier today, and I saw people like playing co-op, and I was like, that was probably the best thing that a developer can see. Where it was like literally like I think it was the patrons, and then a couple of publics where they were just basically just in a room playing for a couple hours earlier today. And I can say with confidence that last night was probably one of the longest games that we could play from a group standpoint of like we had like 4 people, I think, at the peak. We had like 2 or 3 operators running around. We had one RTS guy playing, and it was the best kind of fun I've had in a long time. In terms of basically like we lost horribly because I made the game a little too hard. Because again, like every time Krieg and other people have been coming back to me and being like, "Oh, it's too easy," like X, Y, and Z. We've gone back and basically like tweaked this and optimized that and moved these values around. Actually, I didn't get a video recording from it, but I do at least have a screenshot, and we're gonna do a live playtest in a second, so you guys can see the actual tangible progress. But in this instance, we had 3 operator players on the ground, and then we had Maxim playing as an RTS, and he was building the bases while our base was under attack. And we got the UI window in for like the horde skinning, and we've been working on like setting up the horde activity and making sure everything's replicated. Looking at like the minute to minute, like second to second detail, you can see that we added like a strobe system for operators and for the RTS players, where the idea is that if you look at like a different unit, essentially, you'd be able to see like, oh hey, like this is this person, this is that person, and then based off of that, you would know like, okay, like it basically assigns a color to someone based off of like who they are in the game. So that's something else that we've been doing for the operators and for the RTS, and then keeping that synergy all the way through. So from the time that you join and you start first play, the game will assign you a color, and then based off of that color, it will be like, oh hey, you're red, you're green, you're blue, and the idea is that like that's for operators to have like a flare on their back, and when players possess an operator, the color changes. And the color corresponds with the drone as well. So when we get to the point of adding the options, so you can say, oh, hey, look, that drone player is green, his name is John, it would actually show that. Because like one of the other things that we got set up over the course of the week, what were you going to say? You know what I mean? Because like it was really important. Like we kept getting the consistent feedback of we needed to just take the time and figure out the Steamworks backend so we could show people's names, because it was just too hard for people to communicate and whatnot. So that was something else that we looked into this week, and we got it working in this regard. Who are like, when you're an operator and you're looking at someone and you want to know who they are, it will show it like this. And then it will also do a system where everyone gets assigned a custom color, and that custom color will be reflected on the mini map, whether it be you're playing as an RTS, whether you're playing as an operator. Now, in this build, it won't be reflected, but your self arrow, this one right here, will be reflected in the color that you get chosen when you join. So right now it's white in our current build for the self color. That's going to change to whatever global color you have going into next week, because that was something that we play tested and went back and forth with over the course of the week, and we got a lot of feedback during the playtest where it was like, okay, like this needs to actually be your unique color instead of showing yourself as always white the whole time. So that was one of the things that we hit upon this week, going into like trying to like improve the quality of life and making sure people understand who they are. So like if I bring it up, let me show you guys. Right here. Yeah.
Also, in terms of losing the match, I remember specifically that was you building,
Bite
Rob.
me.
And let's just say you're not the best
No.
builder out
I
there.
was more focused on actually just breaking it more than playing it. So I ended up having to relegate myself to I'm just gonna play as the operator because like you figure I'm looking more for bugs, crashes, instability, and whatnot. And I like sometimes I can't fully play the game and appreciate it in that moment. I'm more so like more laser focused of like trying to figure out the back end side of things. So like here's an example of RTS where it'd be like, okay, like each player has a different unique color. And the white's gonna change to the unique color that gets assigned when you first join the session. Keep in mind these little chevrons are placeholders. We just sent this over to our concept artists to get it visualized and make it look more appealing. Here's another example of how it looks in terms of like an operator. Is that I selected an operator in the world, and when I selected that operator in the world, if that operator is possessed by a human being, then it will say, "Oh, this is Craig," kind of deal. Oh, one sec. And basically, that's the idea of like being able to provide that actionable intel of what's going on and who people are and whatnot. So we did get all that in going into this week. A lot of the week was bug fixes, and like here I'll download a video of it so you guys can see. Where it was like stuff like this, where you could essentially select an operator, possess them, and then when he clicks on them, it'll show the icon, and then you can click on it and then it shows the name and the computer because we were figuring out the Steamworks backend, figuring out how to make it to where we can grab the platform identifier. So then that way it was easier for people to know that's a player playing as that person. Now we've gotten a lot of feedback over the week and trying to figure out, like, let's say if you give Tommy, I don't know, or someone else like a commission or something, then that way it would essentially be like, oh hey, like someone just gave this guy an order. I don't think we're going to go in that direction. I think that's purely going to be based off if you're in open control mode or limited control mode. Then if you're in open control mode, you have such a tight knit group of people that everyone knows what they're doing and they trust each other. If you're in like the closed control mode, then that means that you're maybe in a public game. You don't fully trust everyone. You're just giving units and you're gifting it back and forth, kind of like in Total War. So the idea is that like you figure like there's going to be like some back and forth here and there. One of the other things that we got working was the full screen tactical map. Is that we got that working for the operator, and the operator can ping and all that. This is an old GIF, but the left window over here has the ping options for the operator and everything else. So then that way the player could easily see what's going on in the global map when they're playing on the ground, and then be able to see the pings reflected there. One of the other things that we worked on this week was the seamless travel. And if you guys don't know what seamless travel is in the game engine, seamless travel is being able to make it to where when you lose a map, when you want to transfer to another map, it can do that seamlessly to where basically like it can pull all the players from one map to another map. An example would be like Call of Duty or Ready or Not or something, where like you go from like the police precinct in Ready or Not to a level. And then you go from the level when you lose back to the police precinct. So that was something that we spent a considerable amount of time in this week, cleaning up the code, organizing it, making sure that everything's working on all cylinders, and just kind of bug fixing everything. Because you figure a lot of issues presented themselves when we were actually like working on everything, to the point where I was like, okay, we have to clean up these systems. We have to move these systems around. We have to make sure that everything's just kind of optimal and communicating, because like every project in terms of how they implement seamless level transitions is different, where it's like, okay, like we have to worry about these assets and how we're managing them and the memory associated with them and X, Y, and Z. So yeah. And then for the question on YouTube, yeah, you can leave in and out any time of operator. for the people that are asking on YouTube chat. I just want to make sure that's addressed there. Let me see. And then what I wanted to do is I want to show the Trello real fast, and then we could get into the actual playtest side of things. So let me go here, go to here, and then let me close this and then bring that over. So right now as it stands, this is everything that's on our task sheet, from programmers to artists to X, Y, and Z, and Michael. And the idea is that we got the player names and all of this. Some of this stuff's already done, and we're just auditing it and making sure everything's working. As you can see, we've added more to-dos in terms of we added another column. And the biggest thing for us is just kind of like, this is what we're logging the bugs and the issues that you guys are running into throughout the week. As we play test with you guys, we're recording videos, taking screenshots, writing things down. The UI category was meant to be gotten to this week. That did not happen based off of all of the R&D and the playtesting and the bug fixing that we had to do. So ideally, we'll get into skinning the UI and getting it more up to the standards that are expected from Legacy by porting over those old assets, like the selection boxes and the overhead icons and all that. That's gonna have to come sometime next week, considering the amount of stuff we still have on our task sheet. And then from last time we met, I would say that was May 1st, so that'd be around the 10th. So yeah, right around here. So right around here, we've knocked out about this amount of tasks from last time we've met, around the 9th, give or take. So we're still just going through and just kind of vetting every structure and trying to recreate what we can recreate. If we can't recreate it, we put it on this task sheet and we come back to it every couple of days, every week, based off what people are posting, whatever actual intel we get from people. Right now, our goal is to keep triaging and fixing and bug fixing and crash fixing for 3 more days. And then after those 3 days, we're moving on to the TVD. So our goal is to hunt down the most high impact, remaining crashes, most critical bugs. And then at that point, we're going to cut it for a week or so. And then we need to just get this list banged out. We need to get the ability system in. We need to get the other classes in, the other weapons in. We need to finish the operator in terms of their abilities, their leveling system. Reactivate the character leveling system, so that way character levels matter, like it was in Legacy, where you had level 1 to 5 for normal units, and you had 1 to 20 for the operator. And just kind of finish phase 1. And then that way, when at the conclusion of phase 1, then we'll do some UI work. This row right here, get the main menu, get the option screen, get all that looking sexy and nice. And then we'll drill down the to-dos over here of whatever's remaining still. Excuse me. And do bugs and crashes. And then at that point, that's when we would basically push to make this no longer a private build, and make it more essentially of like a public build. And then that's when we would officially enter development of phase 2, which is the doctrines, airstrikes, call-ins, vehicles, helicopters, and DNA research. But we're taking this as like a phase-based rollout as we implement co-op, rebuild systems, bake co-op in from the onset. And what I wanted to do now is open the floor up before we actually show you guys the co-op gameplay, and see if anyone else wanted to throw in their 2 cents. Onyx or Krieg or Maxim, or anyone else that's been playtesting, you guys are welcome to raise your hands and talk about what you guys have been playing and how you like it, what you don't like, and just kind of open the floor up for a discussion before we get into actually playing it. And then we'll play it for about 30 minutes, and then we'll do a Q&A. And then at that point, whenever we wrap that up, we're going to have a public playtest. So anyone can play it. People on YouTube, people watching on the Steam store, if you own the game already, people that are on the podcast channel. I want to try and get 20 people. So if we could try and get 20 people, that'd be great, because I want to stress test and see just how far we can push the code base and the gameplay, because I want to try and get a solid net of operators that are running in team squads, And then I want to try and get a solid group of RTS players that are coordinating them or being like the commanders, so we can stress test and figure out like where the cracks are, because we still haven't been like people are still advocating 10 to 14 for the player count. Like the highest we've ever gotten in a session was like 8 to 10. And that was fun as shit. Like you figure, and it was really fun playing yesterday with the operators, and everyone was running around, and we had all the strategization going on, and we lost, but it was great losing. Because it was like, you figure, I don't know, it was just one of those things. What are you going to say, Winner?
No, I was just chuckling that that's absolutely so much of the fun, isn't it? Is when you lose together, it makes it so much better.
It was because like you figure there was so much going on, and you figure like it's the coordination of all those people, and then the operators were doing their best to try and hold it, and then we had a break on the eastern and the southern tip. They got through the walls. They destroyed all of our turrets. All the operators were running over there trying to do security, and then we figured out we were screwed. So we paused the game and just sat there with like, because when the game freezes, it pauses every operator, like in Fallout, no matter what they're doing. So it's like a snapshot of like everyone shooting, everyone running, like explosions going on. It's like one of those like cinematics moments that you'd see like in a movie where like it pauses for a second. And it was like, okay, this is actually really cool. I kind of don't care we lost. Because like that was the picture that I showed earlier, where it was like, yeah, we lose, but this is actually a cool moment. So let's just take this in for a moment before we pull everyone else back to the hub and try it again. So I don't know, Craig, if you're there, or I'll invite some people to talk real fast so they can talk about their experiences of playing it. And then we'll pop them down and go from there. Does anyone here want to raise their hand and talk about if they are in the playtest? I don't know if anyone's actually here at their computer.
Craig's raised.
I invited him to speak if. Here, I'll switch it back over. Okay, maybe he's dead. Okay, well, we'll just roll into the next. Yeah, okay, we're just going to roll into the actual playtest then. So what I want to do then is, for people that can join, can you guys join my session? I'm going to host one real fast on Alcatraz, because I just wanted to show what we have going on. So I'm going to share my screen. And what we have here, I don't know if you guys are able to join for the people that are in the channel. There we go. So we got Onyx. So this is your home away from home. This is your hub. This is what we've been building up over the last couple of months. And we're getting to a point where Dimitri is about to join them. He has some last minute tasks he has to work on. Right now he's doing the gates, because there was a ping earlier in the week where, actually, let me just cover this real fast. I'm sorry to detour this for a second. But essentially, we've kind of tried to like keep the old gates where they were opening sideways. That ain't going to work. And it was one of the biggest technical woes of growing with the project, is that the gates open sideways, but if you build multiple gates next to each other, if you have a gate that's like next to another object and there's an opening there, the gate physically has collision. The gate physically affects navigation. So we're going in the direction of the single, like the normal smaller gates have a revolving door where they fold up sideways. And then the ones that are the double super decker gates are going to be something like this. So right now, before Dimitri officially comes over and helps out, we were going to basically have him redo the gates, redo some of the code next week as like a polish item. And then from there, we were going to move him on building in the interior here. So when these guys join the game, we all join in the hub. And then that way they can all explore and do all the other fun stuff. And you can see if I open the tactical map and I zoom in, everyone has a unique color: blue, pink, green. I'm white. White's going to be changing, because right now what it would be reflected is I would have red. I don't know who's shooting me, but I hate you too. So one of the other things that we got working was this level transition. I know it's so basic. Every multiplayer game since the beginning of time does it. But it took us 3 days to get this working, because every Unreal Engine project has to figure out how to do it themselves on a per case basis of implementing it. And the more complicated your project is, the more systems you have to babysit and manage going from one level to another. Because we had crashes for 3 days trying to troubleshoot this and get this working. So now I'm going to take everyone out of this map. And in the real world, what are you going to say?
Hold on.
Oh, I thought someone said something. It's working now.
Is it working?
Well, basically, what?
Well, before you do that,
What?
I've got a bug. Right, I can't move.
Yeah,
Can't
I know
turn,
about
can't do
that
anything.
bug. It's on our list. So it happens sometimes with random clients,
Okay,
and
you know.
we're trying to hunt that down right now. That's Duravar right there. Oh, did you fully update?
Yes.
I think it hates you. But anyway, let's do a level transfer. So now everyone's in the world. Can you move now? If you can't move
Give me
now,
one
then
second.
that's a hardware problem. Okay,
Yeah, I
so
can move
now
now.
we have all of our RTS players playing. We got the level transition system working in. Took us a little bit of while of just getting our asses kicked for the last 3 days, doing like we've been just jumping back and forth with people torturing them in Discord, being like, "Hey, can you play this for 5 minutes?" And then I'm gonna go run off into a corner and cry when it doesn't work. And you know, because the first implementation, oh yeah, pause the game. In the first implementation, we were getting a lot of crashes when we would do the transition from the client side to the host side because we needed to kind of rework how we were managing memory, actor components, actors as a whole, and just making sure that everything was clean and organized and everything. You can see there's an operator right there twitching out. So like he's playing as the operator right now. And then you figure no one's playing as these guys. Someone's playing as that operator. And now you have your operators that are going to run around, do their security while the RTS players are doing their part. And you can kind of start to see how it's starting to build towards like a global joint effort. And you figure like as the horde mode gets more developed, as we go through the phases. So like at the end of phase 1, you know, you'll have the operator customization. You'll have the ability system. You'll have like, oh, hold on one sec. Yeah, okay. And then basically we'll have like the ability system and everything else. And then we'll, at that point, open it up so you guys can play it amongst yourselves and host your own sessions on Steam or on the Epic Games Store X, Y, and Z. And then we'll build into the later phases, which is basically getting you the doctrines, the airstrikes, the call-ins, DNA research. And then that'll be the end of phase 2. And then when phase 2 is over, it'll go into phase 3, which is what you guys have grown accustomed to, have grown to love over the last couple of years, pandemic mode. So it's like it's a phase rollout, so we can stress test the game in bite-sized chunks and kind of slowly but surely rearrange the table back to what you've become accustomed to. So if I click on Hawkins and I can zoom in, I can like tab follow him. So that's the person playing as that guy right now. And there's a micro jitter because of client-side prediction. That's something that we're working on from a back end, is that whenever you tab follow a real person, there's a desynchronization that occurs because the server and the client are always out of sync in a multiplayer game when it comes to client-side prediction. So you send the data to the server, and then the server has to be like, oh, they're actually doing this. So it doesn't happen when you're, I hate you guys. So it doesn't happen when you're doing like a normal unit like this guy. Like if I tell that guy to move, it's not going to jitter. So just be aware. It's a bug, and it's on our priority sheet, and it's something that we're looking into going into this week. Now, you'll also notice that we added a kills feed, so I can know who sucks. No, I'm just joking. But the idea is that, like, I can click on an operator, and I can know, like, oh, this player is doing really well. These RTS units are doing really well. Like, and then that way you would know, like, hey, like, you know, are they just not getting that many kills? Are they in a bad position? You know, and that's in a system that you see in a lot of other RTS games, and that way it kind of helps you like track, like, oh, this guy has no kills, that guy has no kills. And it's a really cool little system that Derek kind of snuck in on his own over the last week. Where I was like, can I do this? And I was like, fuck it, do it. Yeah, it's a really good idea. Like, I'll have you round out one of the nights putting that system in. And then, like, one of the other things is that you can see, like, the turrets have it too. So everything has it that can kill something. Yeah, you can tab follow structures. They don't actually move. But it's a nice little feature for if we ever have structures that can move the police faction. So the idea is that way, like, it's very adaptable to being able to tab follow and control any kind of unit in the game now and long term. And you can see an example right now where like the RTS players are placing down the ammo tents and the guard towers and the barracks. And then the operators will like they'll need them to live, because the idea is like Onyx needs ammo. So like him being in the radius, you can see he's getting ammo right now by being in that radius. Surprise, surprise, we redid the resupply radiuses because the old ones were dog shit. So we ended up making it to where it's a lot less invasive, and you can actually see the radiuses represented a lot better. So This is like our little like mock-up for playtesting for the patrons and for the limited time playtest that we're doing every couple of days. So basically, like, do you guys like this one more? What would you like to see change? X, Y, and Z. Now, the other thing we're missing, well, there's a medical tent over here, is that each one has a different color. And then that way, people know, RTS players know, operators know, when you enter that radius, it's going to essentially, like, you know, tell you what you're getting, health, armor, ammo, or in the future, gas. Because you figure the system already supports resupplying gas. It's just we don't have vehicles in the game right now. It's a phase-based rollout. And you'll also notice, oh, there's Duravar. He's deciding to camp again. And then you can see he has blue. So you figure like the server decided to assign him a blue color. And on the mini-map, or a teal, he's a teal. And one of the most important things for me is having it to where you guys can choose your colors. So right now the server is saying you get a color, you get a color, you get a color. And the idea is that if like they make sure everyone gets a color and it keeps that color across level transitions. Now, one thing that we're going to do when we get the options in, so on that UI card on Trello, oh, that's so disorienting. Let me just not follow you when you do that. When you do the crowd. It's because trying to match your actor location. But you figure it's one of those things where like we're gonna set it up so then that way you guys can set a primary and a secondary color and the options. And if your primary color is taken, it'll fall back on your secondary. And if your secondary is taken, it'll just pick you a random color. Because the idea is that the most of these sessions we're ever going to get is like 16, 18 players worst case. So the chances of few people having the same exact colors on an RGB spectrum is going to be pretty rare. Maybe I get unlucky and that happens more often than I'd like, but we'll see. And the idea is, oh, I hate you. So the idea is that way you can have it to where like you can type in an RGB value of like, oh, I want, so that way if you want red, you can have a light red, a darker red, or whatever it is. And it just, you go to a website, you, like those little RGB websites, you can type in a hexadecimal code, and then that will translate over. Or you can just pick it off of like 8 to 16 preset colors. Yeah, they're having a lot of fun right now. This proves they're real people, because they're crazy. It's not staged people, don't worry. We're not that one zombie game. I won't speak of their name. So you figure that was the biggest thing, is just basically just kind of giving people the choice and being able to essentially like, you know, do all of that. And then being able to build up to have like operators on the ground running around during their combat. So what I'll do is I'll jump in as an operator right now if I can find one. And then that way we can squad up and you can see. Now you can see also it has a little weapon widget that shows up when they're in the barracks. That's going to be disabled in the future because your operators are your avatars into the world, and that these preset avatars are going to be deleted. Like when we get to the point of end of phase 1, finally, I know, then basically we do the ability system, we get the classes in, we get all the weapons in from Legacy. One of the last things we have to do is do the weapon. We have to finish the gunsmith for the operator that I've showed in previous playtests, and then we have to basically get it to where your avatars or your operators are your RTS, TPS heroes. So like only people that bought those heroes can control them and possess them. And the idea is that like, you know, Hawkins here would have his customizable hero with his weapon, his appearance, his secondary, his abilities. And then that way, like that's his character basically. So that's something that we're going into the direction right now. This is not an actual representation of our vision for operators. It's more of just a dirty like way for people to jump in, get the proof of concept of them, and then they're going to evolve as we start to leave phase 1. And you can see like, you know, these guys, let me just buy an operator. So we added it so the operator can be purchased because in earlier playtests, we had like 8 preset operators on the map. And then once you got beyond that point, you were screwed. And then people were just ass out. We couldn't get anyone else to play. So we finally sat down and got some work done over the last like week or so, week and a half, to fix the bugs associated with the operators not properly spawning in. Now in the future, the operators are going to be recruited from here. And there's going to be a special call-in over here where basically like we do it that way. And then that way you can, you know, call in your operator and choose the one and choose which loadout you're doing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to possess little Timmy here once I find the console command. And then I can change his attachments. Now keep in mind, all of this is going to actually be like a UI in the future. right now. It's just all like if they have attachments, it's because basically they're doing the console commands. You can get a drum mag and a bunch of other stuff, but it just kind of depends on you. And then you can see like we have 2 RTS players and we have 2 operators playing right now. And the RTS players are doing their thing, doing the base, getting the security up. And then there's the 2 operator players, Hawkins and Onyx. And then where's Duravar?
Hey,
There's Hawkins.
I'm currently the
I
helicopter
hate
right
you.
in your
You're
face.
so obnoxious. So that's the other thing. That's the other thing we have to fix is that you figure players can block you and it's really obnoxious. So I have to get that. We have to figure out how to make them transparent because people control with this. But yeah, that's something that we're working on. And then there's minor bugs, but I think that in the last 48 hours, we got to a point where people could play the game for hours. Like we had a play session where we got the wave 45 last night. We were sitting in a room for almost 2 hours playing the game, coordinating, communicating, building the base. And now the biggest thing that's going to happen is as we finish the rollout to the end of phase 1, the game's getting too easy again because they don't have juggernauts. They don't have birds. They don't have leviathans. And they need a little bit more sophisticated attack and combat AI. So those layers broke through the north front. So that's the biggest thing is as we basically just kind of keep improving the bugs, fixing the crashes, getting all the systems online. Derivar, can you stop that, please? But you figure like it's one of those things where it's like we need to kind of address that and get that situated. And Derivar just conveyed a thing that I'm going to have to prioritize going into this week is that we're going to have to get a system that turns off people's drones when they get to a proximity of you, so there's no trolling. But yeah, so it's just one of those things where like we're just kind of going through the task sheet and getting everything situated. There is a random jitter that hosts can get. Like I get a jitter, where my game just can kind of freeze every once in a while. We are currently hunting that down. The game is a lot more seamless and smoother. If you look back 2 or 3 weeks ago, it was really, really bad. We get random crashes every 5 to 10 minutes. We would get like constant micro stutter. So we've been going through profiling, addressing it, collecting data, collecting feedback, and hunting down and trying to improve the game and just kind of iron out all the kinks and whatnot. And you can see that the operators have also gotten some visual improvements to their models, and that will continue as we work to just kind of get everything like rectified and ready for like the end of phase 1. Because I want to get to the point for the end of phase 1 where everything's situated and working. And then at that point, we can cleanly move on to phase 2. So I think some operators are hurt right now. So did you guys want to try and attack a wave so we can show how it works? You guys want to attack Bravo or something? So let's run over here to Bravo so we can show everyone's real, nothing's staged. And let's run over here and attack some infected and show how dark it gets at night, I guess. So they're going to be coming from Bravo. And we also added in a center flashlight, like in Last of Us. So you have a flashlight on your gun, and then you have a flashlight on your body, on the operator. So then that way it's easier for players to see what's going on. So when your gun is down, it has this little flashlight in the world. Are we getting flanked? We're getting flanked. So, and then keep in mind, like you know, we're still very much polishing the operator. Oh fuck! We're still very much polishing the operator. There were some bugs with the blow-up guy, so we're still kind of ironing out the kinks with them. You can see this is the perfect example where we need an ability system, because if we had the ability system in, one of us could have had the flare ability, fire that up in the air. It would have revealed all the units around us for RTS units and for operators alike. And then that way we would have known where they were coming before they even got to us. So that's one of the things where like, I'm just like, you know what? We need to get to a point in the next 72 hours for like going into Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, where we need to wrap up the bugs. There'll be some bugs that are remaining, I'm sure, but we need to kind of finish the rest of phase 1 and then continue basically. We have to go back. The base is going to hit, but then we need to basically go, finish phase 1 and go back to bug fixes and crashes or whatever gets added in based off of the change. Like a good system is like we need to get this gone, because I've been talking about this for like a week. But like the moon, the nighttime biome is horrible. So like has been a lower priority besides the bugs and the crashes. But now we're getting to a point finally where we can get that rectified. We snuck this in there too because we were getting a lot of communication issues where people were like, "Is the gate locked? Is it open?" We would have operators like requesting manually, "Hey, can you guys open the door in like the western front or whatever?" And people would be like, "It's already on auto or it's on manual." So it was like basically our way of just kind of showing operator players and RTS players, "Oh, that gate is an auto. If you don't say auto, it's a manual, and it requires a human being to basically click on the door and open it and whatnot." So yeah, there's been a lot of progress in terms of like the last week or so, in terms of the stability and the bug fixes and the crashes and like, oh, our power grade is taxed. That's fun. So like if in this case I could jump out to RTS and then find an engineer, someone's placing it down right now, so I don't have to do anything. And yeah, they're breaking to the northern front. So, and one of the other things that you'll notice that the walls are kind of paper thin. Every wall is like 100 health. So that's something that I've allocated out to Michael to do going into next week. Is you're gonna notice that the walls are gonna fall more in alignment with legacy standards. We've slowly but surely, been going back and just kind of changing the health of the barracks and the guard tower. That one's not changed. And the socks, and just kind of like adjusting them based off of stock numbers. Because like, again, like the health values are all over the place. We were so worried about getting everything in there and making sure it worked that the actual values of health and damage resistance and everything else have not been brought over yet. And, like we fixed bugs of like when units would run, then muzzle flashes would still go. Now this is a bug where sometimes like the muzzle flash goes off 90 degrees to the right. It should be going forward, but it's going to the right. So that's like on our priority list of something that we need to look into going into like this next week. And like that's a low priority bug. So that's on our Trello, but we're gonna probably that kind of bug is gonna be fixed in a week, like 2 weeks from now, because you figure at this point we need to finish the rest of the phase 1 rollout and get the assault engineer abilities and all the other stuff in there, get the other classes into the barracks, so you guys can recruit all the units you're accustomed to and get all that situated. So this is our little vertical slice, I guess you could say, of gameplay as it stands right now. I don't know. Was there anything else that you feel like we should show, Durvar, or anyone else before we move on to the Q&A section?
Oh, not that I can think
Okay,
of.
because I mean, you figure it's a horde game. Like we could play here for the next 2 hours if we wanted to, and very much so. I'm sure we will when we open it up later today for people playing. And if people want to play amongst themselves in smaller subgroups, you guys can host your own games. I'll briefly go over this now. Is that when you press escape, there's an option over here where when you travel, it makes a session. So when you go to the main menu, it makes a session. When you go to the co-op map, it makes a session. So all you need to do is your friends need to get that Steam ID, open Steam, Steam ID, and the console command. And then you and your friends can meet on Alcatraz. You and your friends can meet on open world co-op map and basically be able to play test the game and have fun. Or you can play in a developer session. Because this button right here, whenever we're doing a live session, this will immediately connect you to my game if it's open. And if you want to play by yourself and just play the game, by yourself, then you do start SP session, and then that way it'll lock you offline, and you can play by yourself. And you don't have to worry about people randomly joining your game as you're playing. You know what? Fuck it. Let's show them an actual joint effort. So why don't we take this area up here? So let's go get a group of engineers. Let's get some operators. Let's group up and let's push through. So I'll grab this engineer. I'm going to be the RTS guy. You operators basically walk me in. Let's get a sock in and see if we can't do that. I'm going to grab that engineer. So keep in mind, I've stolen him from whoever's trying to steal him back. So let's get some operators. Who wants to come? We got Hawkins. We got whoever that is, Onyx. So you guys, let's go over here and let's go build an echo. So we're going to just really quickly just kind of push out. The blow-up guy radiuses for damages are absurdly large. There was a bug last night where we discovered that the blow-up guy's damages was not working for the past 2 weeks. And it wasn't in a single bug report. Because I think that so much was going on in the sessions that nobody ever figured out that it wasn't ever working. So it was one of those things where we were like, okay, we fixed it. And then when we fixed it, it made it to... Pause the game. It made it to where it basically they were just kind of broken. The other thing we got in is continuous build mode. So continuous build mode is back in from Legacy. If you guys can hold the generator, I'll get a Vulcan in. And then once we get the Vulcan in, then we'll be able to build a perimeter because they're going to be coming from Delta and Charlie. So you guys are about to be wedged on both sides. This is the perfect example where an ability system would come into use because then they could use a flare to know they're not on your left side. You guys are about to get manhandled. This might be a failed push. Oh, our engineer got sniped.
I'll just cut in here to just let everyone know. Feel free to start asking some questions in the chat.
God.
I'll be taking them down. So.
We had a failed push.
No. It's going well.
So that's
Don't worry about it.
That was a failed push.
Very well.
So like the other issue is that you figure like the holograms can't be attacked in that state. So that's one of the critical bugs that we need to resolve before we move on to like finishing up phase 1. I think I just got everyone killed. Okay, hold on. I'll give you guys some tribute. I'm going to add some money to the game so everyone that died can rebuy their operators. Okay, so I just added $5,000 so everyone that just died can rebuy their operators because I feel horrible. And then I need to build another engineer. So rebuy your operators back in and then just do your thing. Now, what were we going to say, Winter? Were you going to add something else to that?
No, I was just letting people know they can ask some questions, and I'll take them down.
Okay. Now something else that we've been looking at is having it to where you guys have a website where if you can't come to the podcast, you can put it onto a website, and then we just like shake a magic bottle, and then it picks a random question every week. So whenever we have downtime or just time when we want to like basically, get more people's like questions in, we can pull those off of that, and then that way you guys can see, we pulled like 5 questions off of that website. That's something I got to look into. Maybe make a Discord bot for it, so then that way we can kind of have that all situated. I guess we'll try one more push and then see if it goes horrible. Do we have any operators still alive, or do they buy back in? We have Onyx, and then are they requesting to talk? Yeah, they're requesting to talk. And then Hawkins. I'll add you guys to the thing so we can actually communicate and not die horribly.
On my UI, I sent a picture.
Oh yeah, I know about that bug. You're yeah, I know about that bug. I'm working on that one. That's one of the critical bugs.
I crashed.
Yesterday it said that I had like 65% health, but this one says
I know about that one. That is definitely on our list. So let's try and we're gonna die if we push now. So we're gonna have to wait till the next wave, and then we can actually push out.
I didn't have to buy an operator. There was one left, so I just snagged that.
Okay. So that I'm aware of, there's probably about 4 or 5 like game-breaking bugs. Far as there's like maybe 2 crashes that we're aware of that's in the ecosystem right now what people are running into. But like that's why it's fuck those spitters. Let me get this engineer back. Help them finish the medical tent. Yeah, our walls are so paper thin. I'm definitely gonna have to like either myself or Michael are gonna have to go in and spruce that up going into the week. So then that way, like, they're as resilient as they are in Legacy.
I took some screenshots earlier while I was playing some things that I wanted to bring to your attention. I didn't know how to post them on the escalation.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah,
channel.
we can go over that.
So
just wait till we after we get to the podcast, and then we can go over that absolutely, and before we start a public one. So we'll wait after this wave, and then we can push out. I'm particularly excited to the point where like we finish phase 1 and then we get the vehicles in, because then we're gonna have to probably double the map size. We'll probably expand it out in every direction. So then that way we can have it to where you have, because you're gonna have the MRSs, you're gonna have the helicopters, you're gonna have the little birds, and this map has to be big enough to accommodate that. Because this is like our little dirty playtest map basically. So I'm running over right now. This is in between waves. We have 10 seconds. If the operators that are still up can meet me at Echo, that'd be amazing.
I'm heading right now.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm on my way.
Let me get this up, and then we're going to get a turret up. Oh, here they come. Shit. I'll build the cannon one.
Yeah, I would have waited.
Yeah, I looked at them dangerously. You guys, the problem is that I just realized that too. If you think about it, you guys are at an inconvenience over the AI because they can just see through night. They can just beam you.
Yeah.
You can't see them. So yeah, that's going to be an interesting balance thing that we're going to have to address for the AI.
coming from the north and west.
I would love to
Yeah,
have a
that's coming with the
grenade.
ability system. And that's why one of the things that I've been talking about over the last week is that we need to get that ability system in, so then that way operators have grenades, they have flares, they have
Getting
other things they
swarmed.
can bring to the table to just basically be able to kind of wreck face.
I don't even know how much health I have.
Also, we
Yeah,
are surrounded.
I think we're gonna die again.
I'm a
Oh, yeah,
coward. I'm
everyone
running
died.
away. You're on your own.
Run,
Oh,
Hawkins!
died.
I'm so alive.
My game
Okay, yeah,
crashed.
definitely somebody that
Building.
crash.
I posted 2 crash logs in the escalation build. That's where Maxim
Yeah.
suggested it.
That's
so-
exactly where you'd put it.
I also put one in there.
Did you
All right,
live?
I'm gonna.
Oh, you're
put
hiding
this
in the
one in
construction
Notepad.
site. Oh, you got sniped, didn't you? They got you, didn't they? Oh yeah, I see a spitter in there.
All right, I'll be right back.
Okay.
Gotta rejoin. Game crash.
Oh yeah, you guys were fighting off the spitters in there, and it didn't turn out that well for you guys. I see 2 glowing heads.
No, I
Yeah.
got murked.
Are there any operators alive
I don't think
right
so.
now?
I think everyone died.
I
Who's this?
bought a couple,
Engineer,
but I just
engineer.
used the last one. You have to buy a new one.
Alright. Oh, my money
Also-
is...
Also, we need some tents.
Is it alright if I buy 2
Yeah,
2
we can do
operators?
that. We have the money for it. I mean, we need to get a garrison tent though.
It's not letting me...
Oh, you know what it is? It's the population. Let me put a tent down for you.
Oh, okay, I see.
Oh,
I'm building 1. There was enough for 1. It was just I was trying to put 2, and it wasn't
well, I
letting me
just
do the
increased
slider.
our pop by 10, so you're good there. So yeah, we'll
Alright.
see. Yeah, we're not gonna.
I'll put another 2 in the queue. I'll put another 1 in the queue, just so if somebody dies, there's
Absolutely.
another operator.
I guess we'll. What do you guys think there, Derivar? Should we wrap it there and switch into the Q&A?
Yeah,
I
we'll
want to
probably
open
get
it up
there
to a
and
public
switch over to the
playtest on
Q&A.
Discord soon. So now we'll take people's questions. Do you?
The quick,
Well, I guess I'll just keep
that.
playing and we'll just be quiet while we do that. So what are the questions we got?
I do have one question
My
about the
body is
vehicles
ready.
and operators.
My body is ready
Pardon?
for the question. Tell me.
How soon, like, how late in the addition to vehicles would you be able to control a vehicle as an operator? Is
That's
that
gonna be
late,
from the
or is that
onset because
somewhere
you figure
early?
when the ground vehicles are gonna be the priority. The air vehicles will come later on. We'll do some early tests, but the problem with air vehicles, we have to actually do physics, like complicated physics.
I mean,
Yeah,
controlling them,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
being
yeah.
able
Like
to drive
when we
them
do
yourself. Okay.
so when we leave phase 1, then the framework will be established for the operators, and then at that point, everything that comes beyond that has to be able to support and facilitate the operator's gameplay. So it'd be along the lines of like Arma or GTA, where you have a preset point that you have to walk up to and interact with, and then that allows you to get into the vehicle and drive the vehicle, or assume direct control like in Battlefield or Call of Duty, where you can like switch to a third-person perspective and be able to drive it and shoot. So, so I gotta say something?
I
have
have
one more
a
question
couple of
after.
zombies
What'd you say?
stuck over here.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah,
here.
yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the critical bugs I have to fix. Because you figure when you close off the entire area,
Oh.
sometimes they stop nearby.
I have one more question. It's
So-
more like a yes or no. I'm guessing this goes along the lines of the ability system or whatever, but if you set the gate to manual, as an operator, can you just walk up to a gate and press a key to open it up
That's
like an
something that we're
interact
looking
key?
at. Where basically operators would have a.
Alright.
So one of the things we want to do with the operators, and that for the map, like right now when you open the map as the operator, it doesn't actually show you're doing anything in the world. So I wanted to do what they do in Fallout 76 for like the Pit Boy. So the idea is in that way. Oh, the operator died. Shit. I mean, the engineer died. But basically, what we wanted to do is have it when you press M to bring up the full screen map as the operator, it would effectively show you like them bringing up their tactical wristband that they would have in real life anyway. And the idea is that we want to use that wrist pad that they have to be able to talk to certain devices in the field. So then that way they can walk up to this device, like in Watch Dogs or whatever, and then it would like show a key of like, it would show the current status, and then you'd hold a key, and then it would toggle the status. So that way, operators don't need to communicate with RTS players all the freaking time. If they need to come through a gate, they can unlock the gate or switch it to auto or manual themselves. That way, because
I just
What?
uncovered a bug. You're no longer your character is like your icon. This is you, right? You're red. Oh, this is Hawkins. Hawkins on the map is now dark blue, the same blue as the rest of the buildings on the map. I didn't even notice him because he's matching the buildings. His color on the minimap.
dark blue.
Yeah, he's dark blue on my
Take a
minimap.
picture of that. Send that to me.
And it's hard to tell though. Even if I open the map, you can barely tell. Hold on, stop moving, Hawkins.
He's purple for me.
I'll take on the map he's just dark
I'll have to
blue.
look into that one. So take a picture, send that to me, and I'll look into that. Okay, so let's get into questions. I will pop everyone down, and then we will pick from the roster people. Let me see. What do we have? So YouTube, Discord. What do we have for questions?
I got one so
Okay.
Silent Song asked, I know Doug said he was looking into a symbol of sorts for people who show they have low or no ammunition. I was wondering if we can get that same for medics.
What do you mean by that? Like someone needs to be healed?
I assume so.
Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, you figure we have that with the group system, where if you group someone, their health bar, like it flashes on the left in Legacy. So when we port over the remaining UI, it's already going to have that from the previous system. Unless I'm misunderstanding his question.
No, I think
Okay.
I think that's right. He also clarified in the chat. He was like, yes, that's what I meant about just like a little warning when someone's low on health, so that medics can go punch them in the
Yeah,
head
because
with
that's
medicine.
the biggest thing for me is that that's on a UI card right here. Or like we need to it's the sock cover tips, it's the building widgets, so you know like how much power a structure takes up, how much it's generating to the grid, like the small little quality of life changes to make it to where you actually know like what's going on, like you can see the zones. Because we have to recreate those systems in the legacy build.
Yeah.
So we've been prioritizing like the actual gameplay over accessibility, if that makes any sense. And now we're getting to the point where it's like we need to kind of start getting the accessibility and the visual UX element up to par. What else do we have for questions?
We actually have a hand
Oh, yeah,
raised
pick him in.
by Phoenix.
Ooh.
Yep. I'm in Phoenix.
Oh God, they're breaking through the southern border. Onyx is in full retreat. I'm gonna grab an operator nearby and have him help.
Ooh. I guess Phoenix is dead. Rest in peace.
I guess go to a
sweet
text
prince.
question.
We don't really have many, actually.
I guess so.
Type in the chat, folks. Any questions? Hit us, or else we'll get you. Here we go. We got some YouTube pilot questions coming in on YouTube. Brilliant. JM Barbarossa asks, can you switch back and forth between RTS and FPS without leaving the game? Yes, absolutely, 100%. It's you tap a key, everyone's happy. You
Now,
win.
right now, it's kind of crude by but right now, because there's no ability system, it's kind of crude where you have to type in a console command to possess them. But that's going away soon. Like the moment the ability system is in, then it'll just be you press a button here and you're able to assume control of them. Let's see what we got here. There's another question on YouTube, or how are factions and human NPCs working in the game these days? That's on vanilla or legacy. That is exactly how it was before, and how it is how it is now. We're not going to be working on them again until we get to phase 3, which is pandemic, and the re-implementation of factions and civilian dynamic groups and everyone else, and ambient civilians. So they will come in a phase layout as we reprogram the game and implement co-op. There's another question on YouTube. Is how will localization be implemented? For example, the Russian version. As it stands right now, every version is in English because total rebuild. Everything in the previous game was deleted. and everything is just being brought over in small, manageable chunks where it's applicable. But for the programming, it's being redone from the ground up. So when we get to the point, ideally, at the end of phase 3, well, right before we're getting ready to release it out to everyone, that'd be the end of pandemic mode, then I'd put it in for localization again in a company. They would localize the entire game in Japanese, Russian, Korean, Spanish, all of the primary 12 or so languages off the top of my head. And that would be the game plan there. Because as it stands right now, these very early raw builds are going to be in English just because things are changing so frequently in the playtest and everything else. But again, we will kind of change that as things are just kind of like solidified as we leave phase 3 and we get to the point of like a formal release of like, hey, look, we delete what's on experimental, we delete what's on normal, and this becomes a new mainline item for everyone to play. Because that is ultimately the goal, is that this build, this version of the game is going to replace the old version, and then that way it'll be better and have more, be better in every way over there, the precursor.
So there's two
Okay,
questions
what we got
on
in
Discord
Discord?
from Phoenix. So from Phoenix, the first question is, can there be a feature for bounty system? And the second is, can you do coordinated attacks with rebels?
So bounties is something at 1.4. We used to have like an old precursor bounty system that we experimented with when we first came out.
I
Do you
remember
want to
that.
talk about that?
Gotta
Why don't
remember
you
that.
talk about that?
So this has been a very long time since that was in, but you used to build a little like trailer with a little radar dish on top that would give you bounties essentially and send you after. Did it send you after the lieutenants? I think it did.
No, it sent you after specific infected before the lieutenants were in, and then it sent you after the lieutenants when the
Yeah, right.
Oh, long term.
God, that honestly, as an operator gameplay aspect, I think that's quite fun for
It
them.
would give them
something
bounties,
to hunt
mini
down.
missions to do while things are going on. The gameplay of like they could go and hunt those AI down, get money for the whole team, and then extract, kind of deal. So yeah, that is a cool idea. I didn't actually think about that. I didn't think about it that way until you mentioned it just now. It's one of those things where like, if we do it, because we took it out because it wasn't as nice as I'd like it. I wanted to make it more like Red Dead Redemption's online's bounty system, where there was a little bit more build up, and it wasn't just a random NPC sitting out in the middle of nowhere with no real context of like, okay, you kill this guy and that's it. It's just So one of the biggest things that I want to do, and I'm saving that for 1.4 around Pierce Natalie and campaign and all that, is that reinstitute the world events. And for the bounty system, mirror Red Dead Redemption, where it's like you go to a bounty board, or you go to like some kind of like mission board, and then you would start it, and then you have a fixed amount of time to kill that person before they leave or whatever. And the idea is it could be an infected, it could be a civilian, it could be anyone. It's someone that's against Cirque. And then that way, it'd be like, okay, when you go there, it's like a small little staged mini mission, where it's like with a preset guards, there's like a patrol route, there's like a defensive posture that they have. It's not just one guy by himself. There's something going on there is the idea. And it's like a normal unit, but maybe he has better weapons. He's a little more souped up, or he has a really good guarding group. I mean, everyone here, I'm sure, has played Red Dead Redemption Online, probably, and did the bounty system, or at least has seen it on YouTube, and that system, so good. So that's where we would play that. We'd grind the shit out of that Duravar when we used to play Red Dead Online.
Okay. You did until I moved on to the moonshine stuff, and then I did the moonshine with Chris, and then
Yeah, I know, because like I don't know what it was. I got burnt out by just literally we'd get on and then do 10 bounties, and then go back to game design the next day, and it'd be every day. We'd be like, okay, we're gonna go hunt down like 10, 20 people today, and then I'd go back and then I'd go to sleep, go to game design, do it again. I think I burned myself out in that game, but like the beauty of it is that we need to kind of play that game again and just kind of like do that, because that was fun when we used to play that. And I was playing that and I was like, God, our system is so fucking boring. Like, So it was one of those things that was just like, okay, I want to come back to this in the future, and I want to improve it upon it and clean it up, and like it's just not how I'd like it to be right now. So who's that? That was weird.
Do you still have the
But
do you still have the file for Red Dead? That because I lost that file, so you'll have to
I
resend
don't
that
think I have
file I
that
sent
file
you
anymore.
for the Red private server.
Oh yeah, because we kept getting those hackers.
I don't know where to.
We had to go to a private lobby
Yeah.
to play with ourselves, so we wouldn't get broken lobbies. But yeah, no. So it's one of those things where like that's been really important to me. So yes, I want to do a bounty system, and that's more of a long-term thing. And I think that you guys can see it. The feedback loop is going to be like if RTS players are building the world and building the bases and the fobs, the operators are doing security. They're doing like attack runs. They're doing defense missions. You know, they could be offensive by like figuring out where Chelsea is, figuring out, you know, like where the civilians are, what groups should we interact with and open a diplomatic channel with, which one should we kill? Because, you know, raiders hate everyone. So the idea is that like you could get you and your friends to subtask missions out where you're like, okay, that group of operators is looking for possible enemy combatants of raiders that might pop up near us. So they're doing security runs and patrols or whatever. And then like this other one is doing bounty missions long term. So yeah, like you can start to see like it's gonna be a wild, wild west in terms of the amount of things that can go on in gameplay. I can't wait. So what do we have for questions on YouTube? So SM the Gamer 1 asked, you previously mentioned you'd like expansions at the release to be large cities or reference trips, etc. At that point, are you planning to be the same team size, or would you be open to hiring? Obviously, this assumes enough profit from sales, and it's a viable option thing. So I've said this and I'll say it again. This is the biggest thing for me is I feel like co-op is going to be a forced multiplier. It's going to allow us to gain access to more resources. So then at that point, we can invest more resources into the game, grow the team size, and do the campaign to the complexity and the depth that me and Chris have dreamt about. In terms of basically making sure that we can take a good year on just the campaign by itself and not just make sure it's a slapped on 2D cutscenes and then that's it. That's it, folks. So it's one of those things where it's like we want to take the time to get things where it needs to be. And that's really important to us, which is taking the time and learning and just kind of refactoring and cleaning up systems. So yes, we want to go the route of having it to where like we go to New York for a week and then we document it. We take 3D scans, we come home, we create New York, and then we sell that for like a $5, $10 map pack or whatever. That's like the entire like division type size map. Or we go to Los Angeles or Seattle or Houston or Miami, and we basically take cities and we recreate them as like alternate places to play the game per se. That is something that I want to look into long term post Steam early access. As another way for people to support development and another way to get more content to people of like, hey, look, like, because once Pandemic is done, it's still going to be 3 to 5 times the current map size. But we need to start thinking about like post-launch support of like what other kind of open world maps that are the Pandemic size that people want to play. And I know New York is enemy number 1, and then probably Seattle is up there. But it's one of those things where we need to basically like crowds. I mean, fuck, I'll put a poll out. We'll get to the point of actually getting that and everything is situated, and we'll do a city poll. And we're like, which ones would you guys like to see? I mean, I'm pretty sure New York is enemy number 1 from Prototype and Division. But like beyond that, though, it would be like just seeing like just polling in and see what people would like to see. Okay, so what else do we have for questions before we start to wrap this up? Let's see. I have a question. When will you be adding the heavy class, and will he or she have a 50 cal upgrade? Yeah, so that is actually what I was talking about earlier in the stream, where that's why I'm saying that we need to spend another couple of days, 28 to 48 hours, maybe 72 hours up to Tuesday, Wednesday, fixing the last remaining critical bugs and crashes that remain, and then we need to finish the rest of the phase 1, which is getting in the heavy, the spec ops, the sniper, the radio man, the medic. Get their ability system in, get the ability system on the operator. So yeah, it's all fluid in terms of basically like we're actively working in that direction, because right now, as you can see, you can only build 3 units, and those 3 units are meant to stress test different systems. The engineer for a combat oriented class. Oh, we're taxed. Let's see if we can find an engineer. What are those? Those are operator. And it kind of shows how badly we need to get the, whoever placed it. You placed the generator in front of a gate, all right? But yeah, basically, like, yeah, so we're working in that direction as it stands right now, because you can only build the assault engineer and the operator, and each one is meant to stress test different core systems of the game. Those guys are out of ammo. They need to be retreated back to the ammo tent. Where is our ammo tent? Okay, there isn't one, so I'm going to pull back to the barracks so they can get ammo. And, you know, the assault combat. Engineer, building. Operator. So that way we're able to get a good, nice sample size of gameplay. And then once we're happy with that sample size, we scale up, which is what we're in the process of getting ready to do. So let's see what we have on Discord. Do you have any questions on Discord, Dilly? You want to pull up Phoenix? I think Phoenix might have a
Sorry,
question.
I had to take a call quickly.
Here, I'll grab Phoenix to talk.
Please
I was
do.
about to say, I was-
Oh, sorry about that. They kind of answered my question beforehand. I'm about to put my hand down.
Okay, so we'll get Onyx, and then we'll get... all right, Onyx, what's your question?
All right, there's two things.
Okay.
I wrote them out, but I don't remember. Did you cover on fixing the system where the enemies would just randomly get stuck? Because I played like 40
Ooh.
waves last night, and there was nobody got
They
stuck.
don't...
And I noticed today that when enemies did get 3 times a spitter got stuck, just one spitter, and after several seconds it just killed it. It just
That's the
just
medic
randomly
system
died.
working.
And I don't remember if you mentioned that yet on the podcast.
No,
as
that
what
because
you've been
I was
working
just...
on.
So, this is funny last night, is I was sitting in a room with these guys. I think we were in a room with like 10 guys. And we were basically QA testing the game live. So it was like they would come up with bugs, and then I'd have my share screen up, and I'd be programming, and I'd be like, okay, I'm going to fix this, I'm going to fix that, I'd fix this. And then, like, cook a build. And that's it's funny you mentioned that, because that was one of the things that Krieg and somebody else was saying, was like, please fix this. So, yeah, I fixed that last night, you're right. And now, because before the waves would deteriorate and break down after 10 to 12, you get random people that get stuck here, and I spent quite a bit of time cleaning up their pathfinding and cleaning up their medic system. Like Killing Floor has it, where the idea is that if someone's so like you can't like salvage them, then the system will determine that it'd be like you're going to die, and then it will kill them because the show must go on, gameplay must continue. Like if we have to kill 5 or 8 infected that got bugged out or spawned in or lagged into a wall, and they need to be killed, and the gameplay needs to continue. So.
Yeah, I played like 17 to 20 waves before my game crashed, and there was no problems. None of the enemies got stuck, and if they did, they died. So
yeah, the only thing that I'm
on.
aware of right now that I have to look into is that sometimes they'll stop outside your walls, like here and here. Like that guy is stopped. Like that spitter was just stopped outside on the ramp. And it's because like that's one of the last remaining pathfinding bugs that we're getting in Horde mode, where when they deem that they can't reach the end objective, their system is not properly flagging objects for them to attack an intermediary enemy. So the system should have...
Yeah, I've only noticed it doing the spitters.
It might be...
Yeah, it happened 3 times with me, and each one was a spitter. I took screenshots.
Yeah, because like the blow guys do it, the spitters do it, but maybe the standard infected don't. So it's one of those things where like I'm going to be looking out for that when we do our public playtests after this Circ HQ, is I'm going to basically like be just kind of watching people play the game and be like, huh, okay, so it is only the spitters and the standard infected or whatever. Because again, like it's just one of those things where I have to iron out going into Monday is resolve that.
And then I had one final thing. When you were mentioning how to do the personal hosting, yeah, you forgot to add the listen.
Oh yeah, you're
for the
right.
host.
Yeah. Well, they have to do a manual. What is it called? It was like
I can post it.
Oh yeah. If you could
I
post,
have
that'd be
it.
great. But it's like open main menu, the map name / listen.
Where the hell did
Well,
it go?
I
It
can post it
deleted
in the
it.
channel, and I can put it on the pause menu too.
I'm gonna need
I
it
mean,
again
realistically,
anyway.
we have to get to the point of UI where you guys have a server browser. Because right now, this whole manual console command thing is not very desirable. And it's just meant so we don't have to sink resources into doing that because it's so low manpower. And we're like, okay, we need to get the gameplay and the mechanics and the bugs and the crashes. And then before we get it out to everyone publicly, we get that server browser in. So then that way, oh, fuck. Oh, no, no. Ah, fucking spinner. So he killed everyone. So yeah, 10 out of 10. Would spin again.
Rest in peace.
So yeah, no. Okay, so then let me shut down the game so we get to a point of staging the playtest. So I'm gonna close out. Actually, I'm gonna see if this works. Did anyone crash this time?
Game worked that whole time.
Is everyone here? Okay,
No.
good. Because sometimes when we would do that, this was one of the things when I was having we would have a session for like an hour, and then something in memory would not be cleaned up properly. And then when we went back to the hub, crash, crash, crash. 3 clients gone. And then the host was the only one still here. So you can see like this is an example of like we would have lost to 1, and we would have came back here, or would have chosen another horde map. We would have launched another pandemic mission. Oh, you know what? Actually, there's one more thing I can show. You guys want to come with me if you're welcome to. But these areas over here got some initial textures.
I posted the command in the podcast tab.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll just show it real fast. You guys are welcome to explore Alcatraz while I do it. But efforts are working on the textures.
Frozen.
Some of them are kind of whipped. We're going to have to kind of finesse them and get them
Where are you?
tweaked up.
Oh,
Some
there
of
you
these
are.
buildings are going to have to be tweaked up because like I'm not really confident about some of these textures. So we'll probably have to go through and just kind of clean them up a little bit. But we got the initial like UV unwrapping and everything else. That's awkward. I don't know.
what is that
I think he
hole?
didn't realize that hole was there because this is what it.
There's a pathway underneath. If you jump
So
through it, there's a
technically,
pathway.
there's a tunnel network on Alcatraz for when there used to be a. Oh God, Chris, help me out. You're a history buff. What was it again? It was like a naval facility.
Yeah, it was a 4. Then they use it. Something else.
Oh, does it
before
connect
breaking
down
it.
there? Sorry, I haven't even. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. He's just been going Bob the Builder. He's been probably looking at schematics online. And if I had to guess, it's just one of those things that he's just kind of like just doing as like attention to detail. Are we screwed? Can we get back up? Okay,
Yeah, over here, I think. Oh, no, never mind.
we can do the flying
Yeah, we're
command.
screwed. Doesn't that only go
me see.
horizontal, though?
No, we're fucked. Oh, it killed me. Oh, you know what? I don't think it's gonna respawn me.
I could show you a bug right now. It's
Oh, it doesn't put me in
replicatable 100%.
spectator because we. Okay, so hold on. I have to go over here, and then wait for everyone to load in, and then I have to go back because the problem is that you figure there's no respawn system because we didn't expect operators to die on that map. So
Oh, I'm
yeah, you have the
laggy
jitter
as-
bug.
Wow. Wow.
So we
what
haven't been
is
able to
that?
reproduce what causes that. It's some kind of desynchronization when you spawn in. Something isn't properly being initialized. We are hunting that one down as we speak. That's on one of our high impact bugs.
This one's fun.
But you can see like, oh, let me go over here. Like the parachute system is something that we have to kind of squeeze in because I'm not happy with the parachute system, but we have to squeeze in a better version for the operators. You can see some of the textures here and there, but again, like we're gonna have to finesse some of the textures a little bit more and just kind of make them pop a little bit more because like you figure like they're more of a generic first layer paint, and we're gonna have to keep just kind of tweaking it here and there. But slowly but surely, it's getting textured and filled in and UV unwrapped and textured.
It gets better when you're moving just straight. Like I'm not jittery unless
Yeah,
I
it's
do
it's
turns and stuff.
a. My understanding is that there's a value that's not being set on the host, and it's set on the client, and it only happens sometimes. So I have to figure out why that's occurring,
And
and then make sure that it's always the one-to-one lock step. It's some kind of on rep.
I'm not even on the
Oh.
map.
Did you jump into the water?
Oh no, I'm a square. I'm a square on the map.
Wait, did you just say you're a square?
Yeah, on the map I'm a square. I'm not a triangle. Maybe that'll help you.
You're a fucking RTS character. Yes.
Am I?
That means you're
well,
spawning
there you
in as an
go. That might
RTS
help.
character. You're spawning in some weird hybrid where it's using the base character class instead of the player character class, which is why you have that minimap. Because the minimap system uses that it looks at the base character class to flag who it is. So your class is not properly being fully created. So, okay, that actually is invaluable because now I can look into that and figure. Because actually there are two squares.
All right.
There's a square at the dock, and there's a square at the other area. So the other square is getting jitter. He's just not in the room so he can talk. So there's two people getting jitter right now. You can see like other areas got filled in, some of the other base facilities and whatnot. I don't know if people have been here every week, but Alcatraz and slowly but surely being filled in and made into like a Cirque military base. And again, like you'll have a weapon range and you'll have like a quartermaster the operators can go to and talk to and customize their gear here. So when you're on the hub, think of it as like a hub from like an MMO or whatever, or like Division or whatever, where you go there and you change out. Well, actually, that's a bad comparison. Fuck. Like, what's a good example?
Division's
Yeah,
a
but
good
you can change out your
comparison.
weapons anywhere. The idea is here is that you're making classes and you're customizing your loadouts and your kits in a quartermaster and that yard over there, and then that way, when you go into the actual RTS, you'd have your kit of operators. You'd have like your CQB master and your sniper and your medic hybrid and your engineer / assault guy. Because that way, the idea is that you're making operators that fit roles, and you can make as many as you want, and then you can bring them in instead of using RTS units. Is the idea. So they're better than RTS units in every way. They're your Colonel Burden or your Kerrigan, ultimately, for RTS or TPS. Who's down there? It's so weird seeing people walking around on the map. Oh, it's Onyx.
I'm in the lower
I see you.
area with the Cirque
Oh, so
base.
there's the micro stutter that we have to hunt down and fix. Okay, well, that concludes what I wanted to show with this. Let's get back into the Q&A and wrap this up. So I'm going to close out the build, and let's get back to people's questions. So sorry. So what else do we have for questions that have been accumulated, boys?
To be honest, there's not.
I'm
Oh,
assuming
there's a
no one's
hole.
asking
There's a
questions because their jaws have dropped and they're like, holy shit, co-op is coming. I'm just going to take it as
Exactly,
positivity
yeah.
that people are like, oh my God, it's almost here in my lifetime. I think I got a fucking message the other day where it was like, we're getting Cepheus Protocol co-op in my lifetime, and we're getting GTA 6 right after that. And I was like, oh my God. Because it's been that long coming. The people were like, I hope we get co-op before I die. And I'm just like, oh, okay, I'm going to go cry in the corner now.
there's been a couple
hit
of
me with it,
questions.
'cause we got, technically, we'll wrap it up in about 9 minutes. We'll go 1 hour and 30 minutes, and then we can start the playtest for about 30, 40
All right.
minutes, however long we want to go for.
Yes, someone brought up Phoenix was asking about there being like infected operators, like perhaps not as player controlled, I'm not sure, but like just kind of like units that will kind of like sneak into your base and cause trouble.
Lieutenants. Lieutenants are Chelsea's answers to the
Yeah.
operators, where they're your they're their hero unit. If we ever got to the point of having the resources, then we'd make it to where you could play as the infected, and then you'd make infected versions of operators. But that's like you make your own Mercer.
Infected Cirque units.
Well,
Yeah, right.
not so much as that, as much as like making your own Mercer or whatever.
No, sorry, that was in the chat.
Yeah,
in the chat.
because the biggest thing for me is like the co-op is the starting point of being able to, once the co-op is done, the campaign, everything else is done. The next major thing in my mind is looking at playing as the infected post EA release and figuring out what will that entail, and then figuring out what do we need to bring to the table for the infected to be able to make it to where if you play as the infected, you can make your own operators that are like the flip of like making your own like Albert Wesker or making your own, Chelsea or Alec Mercer kind of deal where you choose abilities and you have your own leveling system. So it's one of those things where like those are things that we're looking at long term. And it's like I don't even have a timeline for that. That's like 2026, 2027 in terms of basically like progress. Okay, what else do we have?
Sorry, I'm just gonna finish up answering that question. A Ford asked about if civilian groups later on will have squads patrolling instead of just like one person
So
at
as
a
it
time
stands
running
right
around.
now, okay.
And sorry, and basic vehicles perhaps.
Excuse me. When it comes to civilians, our plans are if we're talking about 1.3 right now, it's going to be exactly how it is right now, where it's going to be civilians. They'll send out foraging parties. They'll send out attack parties. You know, that's the most they're going to do. And we'll do it to that level. And then in 1.4 is when we would consider doing the kind of stuff that you're talking about, because then that's when we're going to focus our efforts on Pierce and Natalie. So technically, yeah, they don't actually patrol. Yeah, you're right. All they do is scavenge until they attack. There's no actual like patrol party they send out. So yeah, that's something we can look into. But for right now, it's not in the cards, and I'll put a check mark on that one. What else do we got?
Phoenix operators. There's not a whole lot
People are raising their
extra.
hand to speak. Does Phoenix have another
It
question?
was probably Buffalo asked. Sorry, that was a bit dismissive. I mean, like, yes, I'm sure, but Buffalo asked: is there any thought on being able to lock turrets to guard a certain direction because they seem to target and rotate behind rather than dealing with all the targets in front?
We went the direction of prototype 360s intentionally to make them to where they're a lot more useful in combat. So, like, the idea is that they're no longer fixed to like a 90 degree, 120 degree angle like in Legacy, and that these turrets are fully like 360 degrees. They're going to open up in any direction based off of like, that was just one of those choices that we made early off, and it's just like, I didn't want to keep that anymore. All right, Phoenix, what was your question? Rapid fire.
Yeah, it was kind of add on to that operator. As far as like the infiltrator operator, the way how I had it in mind was like, basically like if you don't have any type of detection system or a scientist nearby, you can kind of like sneak in behind enemy lines and have a gun on them until you reach his target, and that's when he'll start kind of destroying things rather than like an operator that can be obviously seen as an infected or being seen as a boss, rather than just having like a regular operator or a weak operator that can kind of sneak into your base and like damage stuff if you don't have the right equipment on there. That's kind of what I was like going with it. I don't know if you answered that part or not. Yeah, something like that, pretty much.
Are you talking about like operator in terms of like people, like the RTS hero unit?
Well, not like people operator. I'm talking about like as far as infected, like having an infected that can have a weapon or firearm that can kind of walk through your base if you don't have it. Is not really like an operator for a unit. Operator that a person can control. I probably explain it.
Let me think about that, because right now the most we have for that is lieutenants, and there's two.
Yeah. So,
yeah, the most we have for that is the lieutenant is the female one, which is a federal operative, and then there's the Max Mason, which is the ex SWAT officer, a police officer. So you figure they have guns, and you figure let me think about that, because I don't really have a decision on that just this moment, but I don't know. I think about that one. What were you gonna say though? Sorry.
Oh no, I was gonna say it's pretty much like the last time I played it was like 9 months ago. So I don't know, I haven't played it recently, but it's basically like them unless you can't really see them. Like you don't know if they're infected or not until you like have some way of detecting them. So they more so they more like sneaking around, and you can sneak around in your base until detected or until you reach their target or something. That's just my thought.
Think about that one, and we'll see what I can come up with when it comes to that, because I need to kind of. I'm not really sure about having more infected to have guns. Ultimately, I wanted to keep it to a lieutenant for the only kind of like exception to that rule. But yeah, I'm gonna let me circle back on that. I'm gonna write that one down and just kind of think about that one a little bit more. What else do we have for questions? Let's see. Krieg, do you have a question? You kept trying to say you couldn't talk.
Yeah, sorry. I was messing around with the permissions. My application is broken at the moment. Just to clarify for most people and myself, when it comes to spawning in as an operator, how would that work initially? And do you have any ideas on how that would work alternatively?
So when it comes into the future right now, when it comes to right now, it's the barracks. You choose it. You basically like get a generic operator, and there's no real ability to choose a preset or like your one that you've actually made. So when it comes to like the implementation that we're going to do, ideally in the next week or two, finishing up phase 1, is going to be a drop down. You choose a kit that you made in the firing range on the main menu. So you'd have like different classes that you would have made, a name, aesthetic that you have preset to that one, and then you'd have a primary, a secondary, the abilities you've chosen, and then then basically from there you would basically choose whichever one that you've made. So it'd be like create a class in Call of Duty would be a good example. Well, you create an operator. That operator is tied to a level, and that operator has like weapon levels. And the idea is that as you play that operator, you level them up, and then they'll be more expensive to be brought in based off of their weapon levels, their attachments, their character level, what kind of abilities they have. So it's a dynamic pricing system that would take into account like each one of these things to make these operators more skewed to be like a super unit is the idea. So then that way it's like, okay, like you go this drop down, kind of like the call-in system for airstrikes or whatever. You choose the operator that each player individually has customized on their side. You call them in, a plane comes, it drops them, and then at that point you're good to go. You can play, and that is your operator that you control, that only you can basically take possession of and everything else. Like only operators are attached to that person per se. So I'm gonna go in and steal your operator. So that's the general idea. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, it was more of a generalized one. So if anyone was wondering how to come in as an operator, initially during
when it comes to the playtester for this, they have to
what we have currently, and then moving forward, and then forward
so
in the
right
future
now,
as
that's
well.
what we envisioned for finishing it up at phase 1. Right now, you select an operator. As long as they're selected, you type in possess first operator in the console, and then you press enter, and it will take possession of that operator. And then that way you can play as them. And again, we're aiming to get rid of that as soon as possible when we get the ability system in. Let's see. Any other questions that we have before we wrap up? Oh, Alex had a question, and then we'll wrap up at that point. Yep.
Hey, I just wanted, you were talking about costs depending on like the progression of
Sure.
your operator, right? So will you have loadouts
Yes.
and stuff like that?
So the
Like where you
loadout,
can, and each loadout would cost something different based on the
Yeah.
equipment that you have.
Yeah.
And what?
so that's the general idea. I mean, there's going to be some finessing and some changes based off of what you guys like and what you don't like. Because right now, as it stands, we wanted to make it to where you go to the GUI, the UI, you hit create new, you name it, you choose an appearance, and that's like your first character, and then their levels for their weapons and their character are all just self-contained in that one module. I don't know if we were going to have cross-level progression for weapons. We probably should. Where like the idea is that like if you make a new class, your M4 is the same level it is on class 1 that it is on class 2. So then that way you don't have to re-grind out the M4. And then that way if you decide to go make a new class, it's going to be, let's say your first one is like an engineer, and your second one is like a medic soldier hybrid. Then that way you can take the M4, you can customize it from the previous one and roll them down. What are you going to say?
I personally wouldn't mind class specific progression because you think it's a different operator, they have different proficiencies with the weapon, they level up individually, but
That's
some
what I'm
people
on
might
the
not
fence
like
on.
that.
Because now that I'm thinking about it right now,
Yeah.
I would like to. Yeah, I'm gonna do
You
a
could do
poll
a
because
poll.
what I'm gonna do is I'll implement the first version of what I envisioned, and then we'll get you guys to play it publicly, privately, and then we'll see what people think. And then based off of that, we'll either make it a global progression or make it like your thing, where it's like, oh, Eve Online is a good example, I think, where the idea is that like you figure like each character you make is like it's training and gaining proficiency in each weapon. So it's the idea is that like that one starts out with like the M4, but the second one maybe does an M4, they end up switching to an SMG. The progression does not carry over for the M4 and the SMG. You're starting over from zero because that's a new person, is the idea.
Does that mean Does that mean each class is
Yes.
essentially a new
Yes.
operator that you? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So
so that's the idea. So every
so,
class is a
okay.
new person, a new operator, a new way of playing the game, and then that way they
And that means you can customize
yes
them.
based off of what.
But does that mean that depending on your class, you're restricted to a specific set of
No,
weapons,
there are
or
no weapon restrictions. You could have a
no?
medic that has a goddamn sniper rifle. That doesn't matter to me.
Okay.
That comes down to
Sold.
player freedom and them making. They can make the decision. They're big boys. They can figure out what they want to do there. If they want to be a medic that has a bare-50 cal, be my luck. Be my luck. Like be my guess. I don't care. Like you figure that's just.
And first aid kits. That
That's
would
the
be a thing
idea
too?
of doing the ability system, because in that way we would carry over the
Right.
healing system from the medics to an operator. So that way an operator can actually bring up an ability, click on someone, and then it will channel it and heal them. So something along those lines. So that's why we're really keen on the next couple of days getting to a point around Wednesday where we can cut it and move on to finishing the rest of phase 1, because that ability system is the backbone of gameplay. Like not being able to throw grenades, stuns, healing, like everything is built around that for like the final pillars.
So many people are going to
Oh
die
fuck yeah!
from the
There's gonna be so many
grenades,
friendly, because
friendly
then that way
fire.
operators can throw grenades and flashbangs and all the other stuff. So it's one of those things where it's like I'm just kind of biding my time this last couple of weeks to fix the crashes and the bugs and instability, and then the moment we can, like I've said, I'm gonna cut it, move over, and we'll leave the whatever's bugs that are remaining until we finish that next sprint, and then we'll go back to the bugs and crashes and whatever's new. Okay, so then let's see. Do we have enough questions for technically another 11 minutes, or do you guys want to call it at this point? We can call it there.
I mean, like we've got some slight trickles of questions that are like a few words to answer. I think we're pretty much done with all the big
Okay.
questions.
Well, let me think. Fuck it. No, we'll start the playtest.
And I think you just answered
we'll
a lot
start
of
the
them.
playtest. So
yeah.
I'll give the outro. So thank you guys for coming. We really do appreciate you guys taking the time to sit in and talk about basically like the game, people that have been coming to the playtest, people in the Patreons, everyone, like people that bought the game. We all love you guys. Like you guys put in the time, you guys put in the effort of like, coming here, giving us your feedback and your criticism and everything. Like everything's invaluable to us. If you want to support development, check out our Patreon. Check out where the support packs on Steam for like the chemos or whatever. There's the book on Amazon, the book on Steam. There's a merch store if you guys want to check that out. But regardless, you guys are all great. You guys are supporting us. You guys are like being patient. We cannot ask for anything more. And I can say myself that it is one of the greatest things that I've seen in years of getting on Discord and people are fucking playing co-op on the general comms. I took a picture. It was an accolade. Or it was just basically like, that is one of the greatest things that you could get on and see. People are just getting on, having fun, playing your game, and just talking and making friends. So that was one of the best things that I've seen in a long time on the Discord. But we're going to leave it there. People that want to join us on YouTube, on Steam, on wherever you guys are watching this, feel free to join our public Discord. We'll start it in the next 10 to 15 minutes. So we'll start it around, what time is it? We'll start it around 9 o'clock, 9:05. There's going to be a password in general comms. Get that password, type it into experimental. You want to play it single player, play it by yourself or play it with your friends. And the idea is we'll either break up into multiple rooms or we'll just do one big room based on whatever the vibe is going on. But yeah, that's pretty much it. And I hope to see you guys in the playtest the next